Hello everyone, this is John again. The folks at McGrath Kia in Cedar Rapids gave me access to a Kia EV6 for about a day and a half. I'm hoping that the information that I was able to gather will make a useful video. Like with most videos, let's start with the front. The front trunk hood release is this lever right here, which then you come around to the front, reach under for the lever, and that will release the trunk for you. You have your washer fluid, your coolant levels, your 12-volt battery that runs the electronics, your fuse box, and then your very small storage space. It's good enough for a level 1 or level 2 charger portable. It would be nice if Kia would provide that, but they stopped doing that to save costs. It would be nice if they would give us a portable charger that worked for both 110 and 220. On the front, you have at the bottom here, you have the radar sensor for the collision avoidance and the radar assisted cruise control. You have basic sonic sensors for the front, and there's one over here on the side for the lane keeping, or for the warning of the people who are on the side when you try to turn, and it will give you a warning accordingly. Just like in the front bumper, there are sonic sensors in the rear bumper as well. This is not the GT model, so it has manual handles. Just push at the front and pull, and the door opens. If you notice, there's also a keyhole there. In case the battery in your key fob dies, you can easily open the car. Also, if you have sleet or freezing rain, you're most likely to get something to freeze over this section, and the user's manual said you're supposed to use the bottom of your fist and punch around the handle to break the ice so that you can then free the handle. If you look on the right hand side of the handle, you'll see a little indented dash, and that's where you push with your finger to either lock or unlock the door if you have the key fob in your pocket. There are 4 ways to open the trunk. You can use the remote on the key fob, hold it, and it will open the vehicle for you. If you notice right here, there's a button right next to the camera, and that is also the open. There's a close button here, but you can use the open button here as well to close. So if you want to use that one, you find the camera, reach back a little bit and press, and then it will open on its own. This is John during editing, and evidently I'm an engineer who cannot count, so I completely skipped over the 3rd way of opening up the rear gate, and that is having the key fob in your pocket and getting within a meter of the back of the vehicle. When you get that close, the vehicle will start beeping and the hatch will then open. If you get out of that zone while it's still beeping, the hatch will not open. The 4th way is to press and hold that button there, and that will open and close the rear trunk as well. One thing to notice is when stepping into the car that the step up is the normal height, but when you get into the vehicle, you only have about an inch or 2 to 3 centimeters before you get to the floor, and that's all due to the battery. So what that means is that when you get in, you will not step in like you normally do. You basically step forward, and then you're in. And what I found is, I was wondering why this console seemed so close, and that's because my leg does not extend down like it normally does, so it is at the same height as the console. And so while driving, if I have cruise control on, I tend to take my foot off the accelerator, and it means it's right here to bump into the center console. There's not a whole lot you can do about it because the console is the right height for your hand, but because the floor is so high, it causes that problem. The other issue is, as you can see down there, that is the USB cord for the wired CarPlay and Android Auto. So that means your cable will come up, and there's really no place to put it when it's not plugged into your phone. So that means it will probably continually fall down into the tray down there, or you'll have to find some way of basically making sure that it's there when you get into the car, because it will be kind of a pain to have it fall down all the time. With the other cars, it's right up here on the console. If they had it back here in the storage compartment, that would also be helpful, because you could then just fish the line out and have it right here and not lose it all the time. But that's the price you pay for a redesigned around batteries that make it a bit more functional in some ways, a bit less functional in others. The interior has the start button, physical buttons for ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, then passenger side. It has a dial for drive, reverse, park, a single button for the parking camera, auto hold, and parking assist. Pushing the brake, push the button, it comes on, asks you the standard question about please drive safely, and confirm it, and then you're ready to go. While the shifter is different, I have not had any problems using it. Going into reverse is not a problem, drive is not a problem, neutral, you just need to make sure you don't twist the dial all the way, and it seems to work fine, and park in the center works correctly as well. I have had issues with my Nero plug-in because it has a standard T shifter, and there aren't as many positions past neutral, so it goes basically into drive or into sport, and the other vehicles I have like low 1 and low 2 after that, so it tends to get me kind of confused when I go between my Nero and a regular vehicle. So having the dial shifter is different enough that it shouldn't cause that kind of a problem. The one thing that I truly dislike about the EV6 is the 360 camera, and I really wish more car reviewers would show the 360 view someplace other than the middle of a parking lot, because as you can see here, the distortion of the objects beside you is excessive. It gives you no idea about how close or far away these objects are. As you can see from this picture here, I had plenty of room to the light post, but it wasn't obvious from the 360 view. And from this picture here, you can see I had plenty of room between myself and the cart return rack, but there's no way I could have told that from looking at the 360 view. I know this is a personal pet peeve of mine, and it's not important to most people, but I find that heavily texturized dashboards are really difficult to clean. The texture on my Prius dashboard was such that I could not clean it with a cloth or a towel or anything. Every attempt I made just made things look worse. And the nice thing about this dashboard and cover is that there's a texture to it to reduce glare, but it's not so deep that it would prevent you from using even a paper towel to clean it off. And that's a big plus from my point of view. When you first start the vehicle, this is the screen you'll wind up with. It's actually the rightmost screen of the home area. So this is where you go if you press the home button. It has the EV pages, the map, navigation, phone, and so forth. The EV takes you to this screen, which shows you your battery state of charge, the closest charging station, how far away it is, the minimum maximum range that you have, the vehicle load screen, and so forth. And like the other versions of the Kia software, there's a popover screen here that lets you put up like clock or a compass, and there's multiple compasses you can choose from, as well as calendar information or weather information, the FM, the station that you have, whether it's satellite radio or terrestrial radio or your Android Auto or CarPlay. They'll all show up in this screen if you have media playing. I touch on it, it will give me the distance to that and to any other charger that meets the criteria I have set up. So for the filter, I have ultra fast chargers, which would be able to support the 800 volt charging system. DC chargers will be 25 amp all the way up to 150 amp. And if I just choose the DC ultra fast chargers, there's one about 56 miles away. So if I was getting close, if I was planning my route, I could then use the navigation system to set destinations so that I could go from ultra fast charger to ultra fast charger. And I can go set as a destination here if I choose to. By default, the filter has DC chargers and AC chargers, and AC chargers are destination chargers, and you really don't want to use those if you're traveling very far. On the EV screen in the lower right hand corner, you'll have the vehicle to load transfer. The left button here will just to show how far it will allow you to discharge your battery before it will disable the function. So right now it will discharge all the way down to 20%. I can limit it to 80%, depending on how far it was from where I am to where the next charger is. There's a configuration button that will let you choose the maximum charge setting for a DC charger as well as an AC charger. So I may choose to have my DC charger max out at 80% because that's where the charging rate tails off. But my AC charger I may set to be 100%, or I may change that if I'm getting ready to go on a trip. The charging current for the AC charger, whether it's the level 1 or level 2, is maximum, reduced, or minimum. For a level 1 charger at 110 volts, that would be 15 amps, 12 amps, or 8 amps, I believe. Or it might be 12, 8, and 4. But it will try, it has preset values for whichever kind of wiring that building is most likely to have. For the level 2 chargers, I'm not quite sure what these values are, but at that point you're going to be negotiating with the EVSE, so these don't really apply. Battery conditioning mode is available for those areas that get cold in winter, like where I live, and enabling that will basically allow the batteries to be preheated so that when you go to a DC fast charger, you don't have to wait so long before the batteries can reach its optimal charge rate. Smart regeneration mode is mainly used on highway travel, so it will use the map system that it has loaded, which has terrain elevation information, and use that to determine how it should use regenerative braking during your trip. So if you have rolling hills or something like that, normally what it would do is it would just slow down the engine and use less electricity, but maybe it would make more sense to regenerate power rather than just use less. So it'd be a trade. So basically it may choose to slow the engine down even more in order to pull some energy back off the hill. The charger connector, lock mode, so you can either have it always locked, or you can lock it while charging, which is what you'd normally do at home or someplace like that, or do not lock. I'm not quite sure why they have this, but I assume someplace it makes sense to not lock the connector while it's plugged in. There's a charging prompt that will basically, when it starts charging, it will speak. The vehicle is charging. By default, it's very loud, and you can choose the volume or turn it off. One nice thing that I saw in here is that the passenger seat is now electric, is now powered, so that the passenger has all the same comfort and controls as the driver does. The seats are also a bit softer, especially compared to the Nero plug-in hybrid that I have, which tend to be kind of firm. The headrest is a bit forward. It would be nice if there's some way to push it backwards because it is not the most comfortable headrest. The positioning is a bit awkward for me, and I usually don't rest my head on the headrest, and this one sticks out far enough that it may cause some people some problems. At a 28-inch or 71 centimeter inseam, my legs are rather short, but they're also oddly proportioned. My femurs are about 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters shorter than my normal body proportion would have them be. So because of that, I fit pretty well into pretty much any vehicle, and the Kia EV6 is no exception. However, there is plenty of room between my knees and seat in front of me, even if I have that seat pushed back as far as it can possibly go. When you start backing up, the backup camera engages, the backup tone engages for outside the vehicle, and you also get the sensors positions for is there a vehicle too close in those positions of the car. On the backup camera, if there's a car that comes back behind you, you'll get a tone, it will show you where the vehicle is, and then you'll see the vehicle come by. There are some noise problems with the EV6. If you're at an intersection and a car drives through it, you can definitely hear them when they're on either side of the vehicle. It's like the car does not have insulated glass on the side windows. When you're driving on the highway, the baseline noise level is about 60 to 64 decibels. But if you pass a vehicle or if a truck passes you, that noise level easily jumps to 70 decibels, which is very surprising. The EV6 has what they call SUV styling. It has 6.1 inches of ground clearance, which isn't really all that much compared to regular SUVs. It also has, in order to keep good aerodynamics, a severely sloped back end. And part of the problem that causes is, one, reduced trunk space because it's not a squared off back end. It also gives you a reduced rear view mirror visibility because the window is not as big as it would have been normally. As with my other highway tests, this one will be at 70 miles an hour, going about 45-50 miles north of town, turning around and coming back. The one big advantage is because I'm in an EV now rather than a plug-in hybrid, I don't have to worry about babysitting the battery level or the power being drawn, so that I don't have to worry about dropping out of EV mode. The information screen will show you what each of the motors are doing. So it will show you that the rear motor is providing the power right now. It will also show you which motors are regenerating so that you can tell that the back motor is doing the regeneration, the front motor is. When you are accelerating, you can see that the back motor and the front motor kind of start together, and then as you accelerate more, the back motor may take over. So in this case, the front motor's going because I'm going slowly, and then you see it turn off. So right now I'm speeding up to get on the highway, and so I had power coming from both engines, and now I'm coming up to speed and not accelerating anymore. It is just using the rear engine to provide power. And so you can see the rear motor is green. If I do regeneration, it turns blue. And that way you can tell. Now at the very bottom of the screen, you see a blue bar that moves, and then a little notch right about the 4 kilowatt hour value. And that notch is where the average efficiency is, and the blue bar shows what the current efficiency is. You'll also notice that in the left of the upper icon bar, there's a speed limit, and it gets that from, actually the camera reads the speed limit signs, and as I speed up, as soon as I exceed 10 miles over, which is what I have preset, the speed limit sign goes red, and if I slow down again, it comes back to black. And you can set the amount of difference from the posted speed limit before that goes red. I think you can choose anywhere from -10 to +10 miles per hour, and I assume there's an equivalent minus to plus 15 probably kilometers per hour. The highway and city energy usage was about what I was expecting. The city value was 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour, or 21.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Doing the math to compare that to with what my plug-in hybrid gets, it is roughly the same amount, which is pretty good considering the vast differences in engine styles. The highway range was 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour, or 21.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and that seems to be about average for what I'm used to seeing for electric vehicles. There wasn't a whole lot of wind, so there wasn't much that would affect my efficiency. The energy used by the air conditioner for the EV6 was the same as what I've seen with the Nero plug-in hybrid. It goes up to about 1 kilowatt when you have the temperature turned all the way down. The heat, because this uses a resistive heater, was not quite predictable. It wouldn't stay at a fixed power level or a fixed current level where the air conditioner would go from 0.4 to 1.5 amps. This would jump between 0.4 and 5 amps or 6 amps or 6.5 amps. It's almost as if the system is pulsing the resistive heater rather than driving it constantly. So I didn't run it very long because it wasn't very cold outside and I didn't want to overheat myself. So I would just roughly guess that the resistive heater, while it's heating, is probably taking about 2 kilowatts, maybe a little bit more if I were to average out all the values that I was seeing. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it all the way to the end. There is some other things I'd like to talk about, but this video is not really the place for them. As I was trying to determine efficiency of the vehicle, I found out some things that were kind of frustrating when it comes to determining how much power was being used to drive the vehicle. So I'll have another video shortly to talk about that. Thank you.